Hey, welcome back to my channel. I know for you it was maybe 2 weeks since I posted my last wafer paper tutorials, but for me personally it was almost 2 months because I've been packing, moving, unpacking, setting up my new studio, and today I'm back. I feel like I'm back with another wafer paper tutorial, and I'm going to show you how you can cover your cake in wafer paper. This technique you can apply to ganached cakes, to buttercream cakes, to fondant covered cakes, whatever your heart desires. I love this method because it's relatively inexpensive, I would say, using wafer paper, and it's really quick. If you are not good with covering cakes in fondant, that's me. I'm not very good. And sometimes it's just easier to do something quick, bold, and you can see this cake I created for a magazine. It was on the cover of a magazine. Everything is wafer paper, and today I'm going to show you how to do this. So let's begin. Okay, so first thing we need to do is to measure our cake. I'm going to use a cake dummy because I want you to see what I'm doing. I'm going to use regular wafer paper. This is made out of potato starch, and this wafer paper is 0.27 millimeters, or it's also called AD grade. So I'm going to mark where I want my wafer paper to go on top. And you don't need to be exact, this is just for us to know how much wafer paper to color. Like this, so roughly circle that is going to cover my top. And for my sides, I want it to be the same height as my tier, 15 centimeters. I'm going to make it a little bit higher just in case. And you can tell that my cake dummy is longer, so I won't be able to cover this in one go, so I'm going to prepare another piece to connect. And now that I have my two pieces, I'm going to connect them first before applying on the cake. And for this application, I'm going to use piping gel. You can also use my wafer paper glue, or you can use something like glucose syrup or corn syrup. All I need to do is to make sure I'm applying a small amount here only on one side to connect my wafer paper. Like this, and you can see two pieces already stuck together. And now I'm going to color my wafer paper. I'm going to use this bumpy side because you can see wafer paper has two sides, and it really depends on the texture you want it to have. I love using this bumpy side for this application. To color my wafer paper, I'll start with my top piece. And I wanted to create like this light pink blue ombre effect, so I'm going to take my sugar art petal dust, a touch of pink, forget-me-not blue, and a touch of this darker iris color, and this one is a little bit sparkly, so this one is pearlescent and also brilliant sparkle because I wanted to highlight all my textures. And I'm going to take a brush and lightly dust my wafer paper. I'm creating my base color in these shades of blue, and then I'm going to add a few pink highlights where I wanted to blend these colors. Same for my purple color, I just wanted to add a few places as my highlights. So here is going to be the color for my top, and I'm going to do the same for the rest of my wafer paper. Okay, so here's my color combination for the front. Now I'm going to attach this to my cake. So I will start with my top, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a thin layer of piping gel on the back side. You can use glucose syrup if that's what you have on hand, or even corn syrup or something sticky. I prefer using piping gel, and thin brush that allows me to spread piping gel very thinly on my wafer paper. And I'm going to take my cake dummy. If you're using a real cake, you can do the same. Just make sure that your cake is dry and not going to melt wafer paper. You can apply this technique and use this method on fondant, ganache cakes, or even buttercream cakes. So I'm going to smooth it out. And I will set it aside to dry for a few minutes before I continue working on the side. Okay, so now when my top is dry, I wanted to cut it and I wanted to make sure that my wafer paper is flush with my cake. Like this, and this is going to be my base. Now, to apply my sides, I need to prepare a piece of parchment paper or wax paper. I'm going to have this. And also, I'm going to use painter's tape. It's not going to touch our cake. Now, for my sides, I'm going to take my piece of wafer paper and do the same. Apply a thin layer of piping gel on the back side. I know that one of my sides is straight and I wanted to attach this at the bottom. Then I'm going to bring all these pieces together. And here I'm going to oil up my pieces to secure wafer paper on the cake. I prefer to take a piece of parchment paper or wax paper, tightly wrap my cake and secure with painter's tape. So I wanted to make sure that it's going to stay as flat as possible and I'm not going to have any mistakes. I will set it aside to dry for maybe 10-15 minutes and then I'll show you my last step, how I like to decorate wafer paper, and we are going to be done. Now it's been about 15 minutes and my cake is dry. I'm going to remove all the tape and remove my parchment paper. As you can see that my wafer paper is flush to the cake, and even my seams where I have it is not as obvious as you might think. And the next step, if you wanted to, you can cut your edge. I actually do like it to be this way, like a little bit more textural right here. But if you wanted to, you can cut it either using a pair of sharp scissors, or you can use a craft knife. So even for my seams right here, it looks very nice. The one last step I like to do when I'm working with wafer papers is I love to add a few pieces of nonpareils. So using just nonpareils, a small amount of piping gel works well. And you can use your nonpareils or any decorations for that matter to add more texture to your design. And you can easily put this cake decorated in wafer paper in the fridge. If your fridge is relatively dry, I say in general, if your humidity is below 65% in your fridge and in your environment, in your room, it's absolutely safe to put wafer paper in a fridge. The condensation that melts your wafer paper happens when it is a difference between your room and your fridge. So, for example, if your fridge is 35% humidity and your room is 75% humidity, when you take your cold cake out of the fridge, put it on the table, all humidity will stick to your cake and potentially might melt your wafer paper. But in general, you can place your cake in a cardboard box and put it in the fridge, regular corrugated cardboard, and then put it in the fridge and then take it out and let it sit on the table for an hour or two. So if in case condensation will occur, cardboard box will absorb the difference in moisture. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new. I hope I inspired you to give wafer paper a chance. And if you wanted to buy wafer paper, I buy mine on Amazon. It's relatively inexpensive if you wanted to get started, and you can find tons of tutorials how you can use wafer paper. So check my website astashkinacakes.com and you can find a lot of great tutorials how to work with wafer paper. And I'll see you next week on this channel. Same time, same place. Bye bye, my friend.